Hey there, vinyl lovers, listen up. It's time to take your vinyl experience to the next level with SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop has gorgeous, handcrafted record storage, exquisitely cool turntable furniture, all made with beautiful hardwood out of the USA. Sidetracked Workshop blends style, functionality, and durability. You spend a small fortune on records, don't keep them in a crate. Store and display in style with a console or cabinet from SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Elevate your vinyl setup at SidetrackedWorkshop.com.
And now, on with the show. Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hello everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 468 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And I am a bit exhausted today. Yesterday was a big day at the Glebe Record Fair, and it was so great to meet so many of you listeners there who stopped by and said hi and talked about records for a bit. But again, it was a big day. On my feet pretty much the whole day, up at 4 a.m. and back late. So yeah, I definitely need an extra cup of coffee today. So again, thank you everyone who swung by the Glebe Record Fair. Hope to see you at the next one. And speaking of meeting up at record fairs, just a heads up, I'll be back in Los Angeles and Las Vegas in November and December. So just firming up my details right now. If you are in any of those locales, DM me and maybe we could do a record meetup somewhere. Look, I'm always up for connecting with other vinyl nerds at a pub, a record shop. Hell, even the Punk Rock Museum is on the table. So more details in the coming weeks with the plans of what's going to go on there. So in the meantime, let's talk Unwound. Justin Trosper of Unwound is on the show today, which is really great because of two things. Number one, Unwound rarely gives interviews. They're generally pretty quiet. So I'm totally proud and quite chuffed that Justin agreed to chat with me. Secondly, I'm really stoked that Unwound is coming to Australia, which kind of blew my mind. I mean, here's this post-hardcore band from the Pacific Northwest. Of course, they're contemporaries of Nirvana and Melvins, Bikini Kill, and more. They've got a solid underground following, but they split up for many, many years. And the fact that they are making an effort to get down to Australia to play is kind of a big deal. You know, it's not cheap to get everyone in the crew out to Australia. And of course, once here, the population of Australia doesn't allow a lot of bands to make it worth their while. But Unwound is absolutely braving the odds. The month of November, and all you Aussies who are listening right now, we got to take advantage of this tour. If you're in Sydney, Adelaide, Melbourne, or Brisbane, or close enough to get there, make sure to Google up and get your tickets quick. And of course, everyone else in the world, follow The Real Unwound on Instagram. That's at The Real Unwound on Instagram, and you'll get alerts for when they are in your area. So real quick, before we start the interview, a few things to note. There is an extended version of this interview with Justin up at patreon.com/vinylguide. For those of you who help support the Vinyl Guide podcast, we give you things like longer interviews, commercial-free episodes, high-resolution audio, and more. So support us up at patreon.com/vinylguide, and of course, we appreciate that. And also, you can explore the full Unwound catalog on vinyl, and it's all made possible by the Numero Group. Go to numerogroup.com or visit your lovely local record shop and buy from them or have them order in some Unwound records, as well as some other Numero Group records. It's a great label. Pretty much everything they put out is definitely worth exploring. And it's a fun thing to do, and Unwound is a great band to explore alongside. All right, with that, let's get into our conversation with Justin Trosper of Unwound. Well, Justin, thank you so much for making the time, man. And
yeah,
very stoked that you guys are coming to Australia. When I saw that Unwound was coming to Australia, I had to stop and reread it a couple times. Am I sure that I read what I thought I read, which seems like an improbable... You guys have never been to Australia before, is that right?
As a band, yeah. Sarah's been there, but not, not traveling. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is definitely the first time that Unwound has played here. And there seems to be a bit of a renaissance for Unwound. I mean, are you surprised? What are your feelings about like the popularity that the band has retained all these years?
Well, it seems like it's there was when we were the original band, and then there was say like a decade or so where we were kind of dormant, and then we started working with Numero to reissue all these records and stuff, and then that's kind of you know we be, we started filtering more back out and into like the internet world, and somewhere between then and now there's like almost like this new generation of people that are interested. So I think there's kind of a gap. We kind of figured it out. It's like, well, we're like Generation X people, right? And then the millennials came along and they were around, or they are around, but their era, and we weren't really doing anything. And so now there's this like what Gen Z seems to be like, like they're like the children of Gen X. So I think we kind of skipped a generation and like somehow, and it's and it kind of somehow weirdly makes sense. And I don't really have a grand theory about it other than that, like our music was written like we would have been the age of what people are now, right? Writing that music, say early 20s. And then, so there's these fans of people that are like the age of, say, if we had like children or, sort of that generation. And they're now like experiencing this, it's not retro to them, it's like new to them, but it's relevant because the music was made for people like that at that time.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll it's probably not the perfect word, but I'll use the word bleak. There's a lot of, I guess, undertones like that. At least that's what I kind of get out of the music. And are you thinking that maybe kids today, they're in their 20s, they're seeing similar frustrations that we had when we were young and really couldn't see our path forward?
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. And there's also just the stage in life, like where you don't understand how the future is going to unfold. I mean, we still don't, but when you're older, you do have a more of a perspective on like, oh, well, it's not always going to be like this, might get worse or might get better, but I think when you're younger, you're more in that, you're like, whoa, this is how the world is. And will it ever change? And or it's not going to change, or it's going to get worse. You don't, and there's there's a little bit of a doomsday feel to it. So, there's the worldview of me then, is, I think it's relevant to now, but it's not, it's not exactly the same. I mean, like, I don't want to get like too deep into like the trying to analyze like how politically it's different or, how that all is different. But I'm thinking more in terms of like the life stage you're in and how you view the world and how you understand how the world works when you're like, from teenage to a little earlier, those early 20s and stuff. It's like, a lot of times just seems like, whoa, everything is more impactful too, breakups, life changes, things that are happening out in the world just seem more like hardcore. Yeah.
And the music of Unwound seems to have captured that quite well. And there's this, it's a universal theme, but there seems to be a very hardcore or stream of truly dedicated fans and followers of Unwound. How's it make you feel when someone from, say, Argentina says that your band helps them get through their day?
I don't think very much about it. I like, because part of it is like I'm seeing it through like a comment section on the in a social media environment. So I like intellectually get it. I'm like, oh yeah, there's like people all around the world, and yeah, like from far flung places in it, and I trust that they're saying what they mean, you know. But it's hard to know, you know. It does seem like, whoa, is that real or okay, cool, yeah, you know. It's hard to digest in any kind of real way. I think when we play shows and like these shows, like so, like before we played these shows last year, yeah, oh yeah, you're going to sell at this place or whatever, and we're like, well, I guess yeah, we're just experiencing this through the internet now. And then when we got out there and we're like, oh whoa, we're playing like these theaters, bigger places than we used to play, and there's like, and it's not just a bunch of old dudes, it's a whole wide range of people, and they seem very excited and everything. So that's when it kind of seemed like sunk in. So I guess we need to go to South America and really see if it's happening.
Yeah.
So we will if we can. But it does seem like there is like this South American contingent on every comment section. There's like, please come to Chile, you know, wherever, you know, different countries. So it could be just like 5 people, right?
Yeah, the loudest voices.
They're representatives of these different countries. So
yeah, the Australians don't comment that much because we're just used to being disappointed. So that's why we're so.
Yeah.
So when I see the story of most bands, you know, they start off with this purity in their sound, in their attitude, in their vision, and that purity seems to be, I guess, increasingly compromised as time and time goes on and pressure rises. You know, the need to try to make it work, or maybe they get involved with the record company and they get the pressure that way. But Unwound, again, from my view, it seems to have retained a higher concentration of that purity, that original spirit. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, perspective. So yeah, if we were like breaking it down into the business components, you know, like over if that's what you kind of like, it's like purity of, you're saying purity of spirit, and I think that would be what you're striving for, right? You're, regardless of the intricacies of business practices and whatnot, like, oh, are they selling out now? Are they not? You know, and it's like, it is, I think if you're aiming, you know, like I think we thought a little bit about like, okay, if we're going to do all these reunions, is it just for money, or is it what? Try to at least find, you know, does it have any resonance? Is it still, you know, does it still have any meaning to you to play these songs, even, you know, because they are a lot, you know, we're playing songs that are stuff we came up with 30 years ago, basically. So, and I do feel like, yeah, it does. It feels, I don't know. I think because we abandoned it so long ago, and coming back to it, and, you know, having to struggle a little bit to get there, it does feel like the musical spirit, like you're saying, is very close to what it was. It almost feels like where you're just flipping a switch or putting on a mask type thing that you had in your closet. You're like, oh, I know how to do this, and, you know, and how do you do it? I don't know. We just do. We just, seems like we did it enough times that it's sort of just this ingrained part, even though so many years past we've done other things, live basically different lives, you know. So I think also part of it is that the you know, beginning of the band and the kind of the thrust of where we went, like artistically, was always about, you know, being, you know, trying to, I don't know, just digging deep and getting way down in there, and you know, so it's a lot of it's like, some of it's like darker, these places you go, you know, the content is there, you know, and stuff. So it's not is I don't know, a little bit less. Some of it's a little bit less about commercial like appeal versus like this form. We're just like, this is what we came up with, and we didn't know if it was going to work or not with other people, but we threw it out there in the world, and so it's in of itself is I don't pure. It makes me feel a little weird to say that is pure, but at least in terms of where we're coming from.
It never seemed to me that Unwound was interested at all in commerciality, at least on someone else's terms. That's what I got. And you could use an extreme example of what could happen with like Kurt and Nirvana and everything, but it seemed like Unwound, you guys were very focused on what the direction you were going. You had the cooperation of Kill Rock stars that allowed you to kind of be the Unwound you wanted to be. And to me, again, from a third party just observing and listening, it feels that is a logical path for a band like Unwound to be able to go through these different phases you went through, these different musical phases, and being creative, but again, on your own terms. There was never a single on any of those records, and nor the intent to develop one.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of messed around with. It was like vinyl formats, right? We put out like the Corpse Pose 7-inch, and it in a way was a single. I think a friend of mine said it was like the K-Rock song that never happened for you guys or something, all this stuff was a little rough around the edges, right? It's like because some of it's like, is it a little bit like ability, how much we were polishing the production, and a lot of it was like how much time we spent, trying to make things sound more palatable. Like, you have, they're very raw. I mean, they're raw, like especially the early stuff is just like so raw. We barely had these songs together almost. It's like, it's very naive, right? Like you're young and there's no one telling you need to have these perfect before you record it and put it out. We're just like, we lived in Olympia. It's like people would barely know how to play an instrument and play a show. It was acceptable because it was sort of like the thing. It was like, well, it's just everybody can, if you have the gumption to get up in front of people, and you don't even have to have an instrument, you can just get up and do. I'm not even joking. People just did fucking acapella shows, shit, in alleys. It was very free form, and so we kind of came out of this environment, even though we were more of a rock band. Obviously, we're inspired by more of the rock bands like Nirvana and Melvins and these things, but it was an accepting atmosphere. Like, well, you don't have to be perfect. You just have, come up with what you do, and people might check it out. And then you'll probably get better, but like, or not, And so we recorded these records that are like pretty sloppy or raw, but they have songs, they have the content. And so you could like take the hooks and make it nicer sounding and get my vocal smoothed out, sing a little like this, sing a little like that, and some of the, maybe you could, I mean, I have actually thought it'd be like, well, it would be kind of funny if a really polished version of one of our songs came out, and to see if it actually would appeal to an audience bigger, like, I don't know.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Do you still have those tapes? I mean, is there the possibility you could even do that at some point?
Well, I'd be thinking more like somebody else with more like a very polished type band, but that's compatible, something like, I can't even think, like the Foo Fighters or something, like,
well, even modern day Melvins, they do a lot of covers, something like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, that would be, that's actually not even out of the realm of possibilities, really. I mean, I could probably pitch that idea directly and say, hey, you want to do this? But That would be kind of funny. Maybe we should think about that.
What was the relationship like between Unwound and Kill Rock Stars? It seems to have been a very fruitful relationship. Was it always that way? How was that engagement?
Well, yeah. So Olympia being especially then a small, tight knit kind of place, it was like, part like Kill Rock Stars and like K for these people. They were like these sort of hubs. People that were in the bands worked there, or they hung out there, or there was a lot of it was a lot of like very casual, um, kind of social scene relationships. So I think part of that was like there's an intimacy that didn't feel business like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and they more or less, yeah, like supported what we do, and we wanted to tour a lot. We tried to tour a lot, and so we were working hard, and that kind of thing, and so there wasn't ever like, oh well, you should do this kind of thing with your, it was more like budget based, like, well, we have this amount of money that you can record with, and then each record we as we grew, they grew as a label, and there was a little bit more money to spend on recordings and stuff, and so by the end, probably the last record we did with them was the trickiest in terms of how long it took, and they were like, what are you guys doing, if you're gonna give us a record, because they just gave us money and we built a studio. We didn't I mean, we had a budget and we stuck with it, but then once we did that, it took a while because we did sort of have free reign. We didn't have the limits of oh, we have 2 weeks or a week or 5 days or whatever to do this. It was like months, and
was that lack of constraint, do you think that aided the band, or do you think that was a challenge for the band at that point?
I think it was. You mean like for the last record, or
the last record?
I think it was good. I mean, we were self-producing as well. We brought in people to help us figure things out and advise us and do some engineering and stuff, but it was, I don't think it was exactly self-indulgent so much, it was more just like, it's just going to take a while to make this sound right, and so it was good. They were a little bit hands off, I mean, it get to a point where like, okay, we should probably try to release it by this time and to get things in motion. Otherwise, this could just go on and on. So, I mean, there was never any like real drama around it or anything, with those guys. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know.
So that album, Leaves Turn Inside You, which turned out to be the final album, but you guys had built this studio, I guess with the assumption that you'd continue doing work in that studio from that point forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That was definitely the idea. Part of it was like part of our pitch on, we're like, well, let's, if we do this thing, it'll be something that other people at Kill Rock Stars can use, or, we can help, which we did. We did a few projects for not just Kill Rock Stars specifically, but other local bands, mostly a few other things. And, it did become kind of a resource for other people, we record things for cheap and stuff. Yeah. So
when did the affiliation with Numero Group start?
Yeah, basically more or less 10 years after the band broke up. So I would say 2011 or 12. And the quick story on that would be that we started putting together this online archive, like, let's have a little bit of web presence and have some it was kind of a project just to do, and we thought we'd put together a live record, and so of our last tour, and so we started doing that, and had a couple friends help us with that, and between those guys, they I don't know exactly how, but Ken from Numero was working with one of them, this guy Henry Owens, and who did some help with the art, and they're like, hey, why don't you talk, blah blah blah, talk network, blah, blah, and so anyway, Ken got a hold of us, and this is my label, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that because I knew about it from reissues and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of started talking to him, and he was already doing the coding. I think that's kind of the first first sort of indie rock type thing they were doing. And are you interested in this kind of thing? And so I was like, yeah, this would be great. Kill Rock Star was kind of going through a phase of they were transitioning. They had moved from Olympia. They had, and there was also kind of like the music industry. There was like this whole, everything kind of tanked, for a while. Yeah. And so, I mean, they survived, but they were kind of like reinventing themselves. They didn't know what they were doing. And so they weren't really focusing too much on these legacy bands, And so I kind of just asked them like, hey, there's this label that, they really want to do this stuff. Can we just have our stuff back if you guys aren't really going to do it? And they were super like gracious about it. Like, yeah, cool. Here you go. No big deal. Good luck. Thanks. Love you. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. Yeah. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah.
Was it difficult locating the tapes and the artwork and the different materials that were needed?
Not really. I mean, there's some stuff that we don't have tapes of, and that was mastered off of like CDs and stuff. But for the most part, we definitely had. I think we had all the masters of the main records and everything. We kept. So, there's even multi-track tapes and everything. We didn't really remix anything. The only thing we did a little bit of remixing of the very first demo tape that our second recording that we ever did, and we had an 8-track multi-track 8-track machine and the tapes, and we did a little bit of fixing on some stuff. Just it wasn't anything radical, but that was the only thing we kind of did a little bit of actual remixing. Everything else was remastered. Yeah.
It sounds really good. I was just listening to Kid Is Gone and really marveling at the sound. These are tapes that you recorded in your garage, and a lot of them are just very non-studio recordings. And the sound, the sonics is actually quite good. So Numero seems to have put out the Unwound catalog in 4 phases. There's Kid Is Gone, Rat Conspiracy, No Energy, and Empire. And each of those have not only demos, early recordings, but the full albums that tell the whole story from beginning to end of Unwound. Is there anything that's missing in there? Any tapes that weren't used for those box sets? Hey there, all you record nerds. I want to tell you about BagsUnlimited.com. BagsUnlimited.com has a huge selection of vinyl record supplies. Whether you collect LPs, 7-inch singles, 78 shellacs, or anything in between, BagsUnlimited.com will sort you out. From polyline sleeves to cardboard record mailers to 7-inch storage boxes and archive quality record sleeves, protect your records of any size and shape at BagsUnlimited.com. Whether you have a small personal record collection or you're running a massive record shop, you can grab a small supply or even buy in bulk at BagsUnlimited.com. And they've got some really incredible, unique stuff. BagsUnlimited.com even has special size sleeves made especially to protect your box sets, storage boxes and sleeves for cassette tapes, protective supplies for reel-to-reel, and yes, even 8-tracks. Just go to BagsUnlimited.com, click on audio supplies, and prepare to be impressed by all the options they have. That's BagsUnlimited.com. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VINYLGUIDE10. Numero seems to have put out the Unwound catalog in 4 phases. There's Kid Is Gone, Rat Conspiracy, No Energy, and Empire. And each of those have not only demos, early recordings, but the full albums that tell the whole story from beginning to end of Unwound. Is there anything that's missing in there? Any tapes that weren't used for those box sets?
Not really. I think we really kind of, I mean, luckily I kept, a lot of stuff. And then, Kill Rock Stars had masters and stuff and like that, and so we had quite a bit of, and because of the studio too, we had just a little bit of an archival aesthetic or ethic, I guess. And so, no real live, I mean, a few live tapes, things like that. But for the most part, I think everything actually recorded,
okay.
like to 4-track, or we did, we kind of demoed ourselves before we did albums. So like, a little bit. Once we started learning how to record a little better, we started doing that. But, yeah.
You brought up the archival ethic, which strikes me as very, very true, because even the unwoundarchive.com, there seems to have been a discipline or a desire to archive and keep things and tell the story accurately, even from a very early point in the band. Are you kind of the archivist? Are you the person who likes to collect these sort of things?
Yeah, I just kind of did. I mean, I did. Maybe I'm a little bit of a pack rat. I'm not super nostalgic exactly, but I'm definitely like, well, I'll just hang on to stuff because you never know what's going to happen. And so I have, not so much anymore, but I used to collect flyers. I wasn't like a live recording person so much, but I was a big record collector, and especially when I was younger, every flyer I would go, like, if I go into Seattle or something, I would go pick flyers off of telephone poles and stuff, if there was anything cool, like from the age of like 13. And so I had quite a bit of that kind of stuff. And then when we went on tour, especially, I would try to, if there was a little handbill or anything, throw it in my bag. And, so we did end up having quite a bit of stuff. And then tapes, we had, like in high school that we started recording and stuff. So like, I had all these tapes. There's, really, really dumb stuff that we recorded, that I hung on to. So, so Vern definitely he was a little bit of a pack rat too, but like, I mean, I just recently got a box of videos that he had squirreled away, so, which we never, I mean, I haven't seen any of them, but they were all things that people had sent to us, live videos and things like that. Yeah. So, so a long time ago, we were going to put together a video compilation. And so we sourced, like, it was like towards the end of the day of the band, but like 2000, early 2000s, like, hey, can people send us these tapes? We're going to put together this compilation. So we did get a whole bunch of tapes, but I didn't. This box that I just found a little while ago was like, oh, I didn't know about these ones. So he had a couple boxes. I ended up with a box of his stuff before he passed away that was just, I don't know how it ended up in my stuff, but I was like, this isn't even my stuff. This is Vern's. How did I get this? So it made, I don't know. And there's a lot of stuff. We had letters. I still have a bunch of letters, fan letters. I kept all of our fan mail, but a lot of it got lost. But yeah, I still have at least a like grocery bag full of fan letters. So
yeah, I noticed that even the earliest gigs, the dates are recalled, even who else was on the bill. So even it seems at an early point, someone, and I assume that was probably you, was documenting this.
Yep. And then so it came from flyers, and then we had, some of it was just like our tour itinerary, on a calendar even, we had a couple like calendar pages. This is like that tour we did in July, whatever, and then you kind of piece it together. Maybe, who played that show? Do you remember? And so like that whole list of all the shows, which is actually I'll eventually get back to updating it because there's a lot of updates that I haven't done. Obviously the new stuff, but someone would maybe send an email like, oh, well, my band opened up for that show. Oh, okay. I'll add that in there, So so some of that was, not all, it wasn't all from memory or even stuff I wrote down, but people would give input or, it's just kind of but yeah, we spent quite a bit of time on that for, I spent quite a couple winters working on that website. I was working and then I'd have a winter off and I'd work, I'd work on the website. And then
did you and Vern remain good friends throughout the down years of Unwound?
We remained friends, but we weren't, we drifted apart as, socially, and, we didn't hang out really, but there was no animosity, like that kind of thing,
Right.
So, we were still, it's sort of like a family, if you have a family member, you're a little bit of estranged from, if they call you up, you answer the phone, but, talk to them for a while, oh yeah, it's my cousin, oh yeah. And same story. Okay, cool. We'll talk to you next year. Type of thing. Yeah.
Cause Numero came in the picture while Vern was still around for probably close to 10 years through that. I mean, did you guys partner and work together a lot to make sure all the material was together for Numero?
Yeah. He was in on it all, and he'd give input. And like I said, he had some stuff. I mean, there's some stuff I just found that would have been great to have in paper material, like flyers and some photos and things that had been squirreled away in his stuff that didn't make it into the books, which would have been pretty cool. Because we ended up kind of stretching some of the material, like, well, because we made the different box sets and then we compiled it into this book. I don't know if you've seen that, but that ended up, we ended up doing that a little bit in a hurry to make it. And I had stuff that I couldn't, like, that was in storage that because where I was living, my storage unit I was living in Alaska actually. And my storage unit was in Washington, and I was like, oh, I can't get to it right now, but we kind of need to do this thing. So we were kind of using stuff we had. I know there was stuff. And then I recently discovered a box of stuff that Vern had. I don't know if he knew about it or what, but it was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of crap in here we could have used. So, you do what you can, but,
you've got unwoundarchive.com that could be a vehicle.
Right. I mean, that was the intention originally. It was like, well, we weren't going to come out with, having a book is like way next level compared to what we were thinking. It's like, we're going to have a website with all this stuff, and the few people that want to check it out can just go check it out,
Mhm.
And so there is still stuff on there. I mean, it was fun, and I could probably find, it has to be fun to do it, and so at that time it was fun to dig through things and put it out and kind of make a little website thing out of it. And I don't, I like when I look at some of that stuff now, I'm like, oh wow, there's like a whole bunch of crap in here, and it would be cool to get out there, but I have to find that inspiration to do it.
Do you still have the cover art for Fake Train, the Tom Jones thing?
I'm not sure. That might actually, I do. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I don't have it, but Numero might have it. Yeah, they we kind of they have some boxes of the archives. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That would be. I'd love to see that. So, do you think at any point is there a universe where there's potentially new unwound material? Hey there, audiophiles. If you're seeking stylish furniture to showcase your stereo and record collection, well, look no further than SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop designs extraordinarily elegant record cabinets and consoles that add sophistication and panache to your music hobby. Handcrafted in the good old USA in the vinyl-loving city of Portland, Oregon, Sidetracked Workshop's designs are a music lover's dream. Made with real walnut veneered wood and brass accents, these gorgeous designs add class and taste to the record room and ship fully assembled and ready to enjoy. Just check out the designs for yourself at SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Look, you spend thousands of dollars on records. Don't keep them in a crate, and don't risk your records on those feeble wooden pegs from IKEA. Your music deserves the dignity of Sidetracked Workshop. That's SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Elegant solutions for the vinyl lifestyle. Do you think at any point is there a universe where there's potentially new unwound material?
Right. Yeah. Like a parallel universe that suddenly comes into this one. I mean, yeah, I think initially, so part of, before we did this, we wanted to try to, when Vern was alive, we wanted to at least try to do this with Vern, and it wasn't going to work out. But one of his things, when we were talking about it, he's like, I would really want to record again. And we were like, maybe we should just try to play together at least once before we get that ambitious. But it was really his, he felt very inspired. He's like, I don't think it would just be, it seems like kind of dumb just to like do a reunion and, just be all retro and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so I felt like there was this thing that was very inspiring to him that kind of made me think later, like, it'd be kind of like, it kind of weird in a way because it wouldn't be with him, but in a way it was like his desire, it was like his will to want to do something else. And so, I think it's definitely in the realm of possibilities. We haven't written anything. We've kind of been just like, well, we're last year was like this was like our debutante. Woo! We came out, we're here. And then, like, oh, we love you. Come back. And so, so we've done some stuff this year, and we're kind of trying to do a couple things we never did. Like, oh, we're going to go to Australia, maybe Japan, and maybe go, we're definitely intending to go to Europe. So we're kind of doing it all piecemeal, like, okay, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. Everybody has some part of, their outside life that we have to balance everything out. So, certainly to keep doing things without just, oh, we're going to do this album. Oh, we're coming back in 2029, to keep
30-year reunion of repetition or something like that, right?
Yeah. And so we're kind of dabbling in that stuff, but I think that gets old after a while, and I think like we were talking about earlier, that more pure spirit is like, the pure spirit really isn't just, I mean, we're doing our best to play songs true to the spirit of the music that was made, and I think we're doing a good job of that. But like, yeah, we're not going to do like the King Crimson like triple player version of Unwound, which actually would be kind of cool, but we're not going to do shit like that. That's just kind of crazy. So I mean, to put out a record, I think it's, to me, because I like writing music, and so it's kind of a platform that, well, it's like, well, I could write a record and call it something else, or I could write a record and all the people in Unwound, we could all collaborate on that and call it Unwound, and so yeah, I think we should, but I don't know if we will,
Right.
So it's a year or two down the pipeline.
Sure. Are there any songs or things that maybe you worked on with Vern that were incomplete that you'd like to see completed?
There's a couple songs. So I put out this record, Nocturnal Habits, and one of the songs on there was I don't know, to be totally honest, I don't know if I wrote it while Unwound was still a band or right after. It's right in there, like 2001 era. And so a song that I wrote then is on that record. And then there's another one in there. And I don't think we really have any recordings of sort of demo stuff that was with Vern that would see the light. But those were very much in that time period that would have been. So there's some stuff like that. There's some, yeah. So there's definitely, it's not like the, what's the Beatles, where they had a little vocal bit of
Free
the
as
John
a bird.
Lennon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we probably could do that. That'd be creepy, but there's probably something we could do. Actually, Vern would think it was hilarious, but no. So, but there's a lot of stuff. And like I said, we have, we could definitely do stuff, and it would be cool. It could be interesting.
Okay. So there's an openness for that to potentially happen at some point. Okay.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
So just, you mentioned earlier that you were a bit of a record nerd, or at least you used to collect records. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you still collect records? Is that still something you do regularly?
I don't really. I have a record collection that's mostly in storage. A box ended up, like, it was at my parents' storage, and they came down and visited me, and they're like, "Oh, we have this box of records," and it turned out to be an awesome box. It was like full of cool stuff. So that's been in my living room, and I finally reset up my stereo and stuff, and was listening to things. But so yeah, I kind of stopped actively. So after Unwound, I was still collecting. I was doing DJing. I DJ'd in Olympia regularly. I had and during Unwound too, I had a soul night. I did a soul night, and then after that I did a more eclectic night
right
at this bar, and so I did that, and that was, it was everywhere from Martin Denny to, just obscure more. It was like they wanted a dinner hour type thing, and so it was all kinds of like that kind of stuff. And then later, when I moved away from Olympia and I came back, and then later did some DJing, and so that kind of kept me collecting here and there, and then that was also when the MP3 streaming and everything started taking over my listening habits, I guess you'd say. And so I kind of stopped actively collecting. I still get records here and there. I'll go. Also, it's a little less fun to me than it used to be, because it used to be, because we tour, I'd go to a record store and go picking and find a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't very expensive. And then now it's just so expensive, So and I have more money than I did then, and but it's just less fun to me. I'm like, So if I go to a thrift store, I might pick through a little bit, and because if you're a record collector, actually when you walk into a place, if it has potential, it's just like this. It's like you have an intuition. You're like, whoa! I need to look at the record pile here.
Yeah,
because there's a chance. Or you walk into a place, you're like, I'll go look at tools. There's not going to be any records here.
The spidey senses. Yeah, don't underestimate the spidey senses.
You just So I'll do that. And occasionally I'll go to a record store and look for fun. See how much stuff costs. 45s, that's still a thing that's you can find for cheap.
So Let me ask you this, Justin. So I had a really good friend of mine, my best friend here in Australia. His name is Dan, and he's the one that actually introduced me to Unwound. Ironically enough, he passed away in 2015. He left me his record collection, and I've been finding homes for his records, his exact records, for the last decade or so. You're always welcome to say no, but I'd love if you're open to the fact, I'd love to send you some of his collection for your own collection.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
I love, like, especially discovering random stuff. That's what the internet it's great in one way because you can research things, but when you go through and you're like, whoa, what? I know this is interesting. So I have to check this out.
He left some interesting records, so I'll get your information offline. I'd love to see. I think wherever he is in the cosmos, he'd be delighted with that.
Great.
Before you go, I just want to check in with you in terms of records and a little game we sometimes play is guess the Runout etching from your own catalog. So I'll state one of the etchings in a Runout groove of one of your records, and you let me know if you remember what it is, and if so, maybe what it refers to. Okay.
Yeah.
The etching is "Every Day Is Yesterday," and on the B side, "Demolish the Work Ethic."
Yeah, every day is just. Is it the Corpse Post single?
Nope.
No.
I'll repeat it. Every day is yesterday.
The future of what?
The future of what? There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So the every day is yesterday. Okay, so all that whole record was it's kind of pseudo intellectual. Now I think of it, but I was very interested in like the situationism, and you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Like okay. It's sort of like critical theory, postmodern stuff that was happening in the 60s, and there was is like French writers, and they're analyzing society, and then there's the postmodern blends, and so a lot of it's like that whole thing of the society of the spectacle, and you're what it was before, it was like where media was infiltrating reality, and there's like so, and the idea of time and everything. So like where are we watching the world as it unfolds, or are we watching a rerun of the world as it unfolds, or whatever? So yeah, and then the demolish the work ethic thing was sort of a that would be like a propaganda, like a graffiti or a propaganda statement to make people think the opposite, like you would be writing the thing so people would rebel against the thing that you're writing.
Okay. Almost a self-destructive
Don't tell me to demolish
statement.
the work ethic.
Well, any club that would have me as a member is a club I wouldn't join, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing, right.
Oh, okay.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. Well, very good. Okay, let me give you another one here.
All right.
These are runout etchings of a record that you created. The Witch, the Warlock, and the Weirdo, with the B-side, Gene Simmons Wears Pants, Truth.
Okay, that's Fake Train.
Absolutely.
And the Witch, the Warlock, and the Weirdo is what Bill Karen from Bikini Kill called Unwound. And that you guys are I don't know if it was secondhand or if he told me that into my face. I mean, we used to hang out, and so yeah, you guys are the Witch, the Warlock, the Warlock, and the Weirdo.
Who was the weirdo?
I think I was the weirdo, but I would think Vern was more of a weirdo, but he was more of a warlock in the sense that he was more into like Dungeons and Dragons and Middle Earthian type of things. So.
Process of elimination
We all
makes
know
you the
witch,
weirdo.
I mean, the witch.
Yeah.
Maybe I was the witch. Sarah was the weirdo. So Vern was definitely the warlock, though. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other side, the Gene Women's, that's got to have. That was definitely from Toby Vale from Bikini Kill, and I don't remember the wears pants thing was a very inside joke thing of that time, and I don't remember her band, the Frumpies. I don't know because I didn't think the Frumpies was going yet, but they had a song called "The Frumpies Wears Pants," like versus skirts or dresses, and so it was a Kiss. There was like these mashup jokes, right? Like where there was like this weird joke that was going around a long time where the Planet of the Apes was Planet of the Apes. Oh God. It was like this related to Fugazi somehow with Planet of the Apes and Let Them Eat Cake. I don't remember. Let Them Eat Apes or something, so it's like, there was a lot of these mashup jokes that make no sense. They're super insider and they don't even make sense to the people that are telling them. So that's
a fragment of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, ape shall not kill cake. That was the
ape shall. Oh, okay.
Ape shall not kill cake. And I don't, I don't know who made that up, but it was a joke that wasn't funny, but it was somehow funny to people who maybe knew about it. I don't know.
Well, I think that's kind of funny. You got Planet of the Apes and Marie Antoinette kind of mashed up there. Yeah. All right, Justin, I'm getting ready to wrap up. Is there anything you want to talk about we haven't talked about?
No, I don't have anything. I was thinking like, oh damn, I should have like pretended to have my record collection behind me to be on the thing, and I could talk about. And I'm not at home, but I was like, if I was at home, I had that box of records, and it has all these gems in it, and I have these gems. I was like, well, I don't know if the guy is going to ask me about cool records I own, but I'm not even at home, so shit. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. One thing I can plug, and it's not just because I'm involved with it, but
sure.
The friend of mine put out. Have you heard of LG? These LG records he's been putting out. This is the worst case scenario one. This is a band that we had.
Okay.
And he's been putting out some really cool reissues, a lot of DC oriented stuff, and then a couple of bands I was in, and some San Diego bands. So LG records, I don't know. The cool packages.
You have the Young Gins on that.
Young Gins. Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's Tim from Ulysses, and then us, and then he put out the Circus Lupus. Did you listen to that band?
No, I haven't. So
that record's phenomenal. And maybe Shudder to Think. I mean, some bands you've heard of and offshoots of people in those bands, and then some pretty obscure San Diego punk hardcore 90s stuff and things like that. But,
Click Attack Ikakawi, you guys
so Numero's doing that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and we're playing 2 shows with them coming up next week.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mario's a friend of ours. Mario's a listener too. So
yeah, and he's the record guy. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
big record,
big
nerd.
Time.
We love
big
Mario.
Time. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, cool. I'll put a link to LG Records here in this episode, and I'll encourage people to go give them a listen.
Yeah.
Cool. So, look, again, Justin, very stoked to have you down here in Australia. I've already got my tickets. You guys are playing the Oxford Arts Factory here in Sydney, and it's a wonderful place to see a show. And I got a feeling that is going to be a very difficult ticket to get once it sells out. So I encourage everyone in Australia to Google Unwound shows. Actually, anywhere in the world, Google Unwound shows. If they're playing in your neighborhood, definitely grab the tickets. But Australia, I'm looking specifically at you. Sydney, Adelaide, Melbourne, Brisbane. I think that's it. Those 4 cities.
Yep.
Anything else? Yep. Okay.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
All right. And that's in
next
November.
time we'll go to Perth, but and Tasmania. But we got to get our intro first, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a good time of year, so we're looking forward to hosting you there. And again, Justin, thank you so much for sharing that knowledge for entertaining our record nerd questions, and so glad to see you guys back up on your hind legs, and looking forward to having you here in Australia.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all super excited. So yeah, it'll be a good show. We'll bring the goods. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Man, lovely dude. Again, very stoked Unwound is coming to Australia. And just also a quick shout out, Sarah Lund, the drummer of Unwound, recently shared that she's going through a health challenge at the moment. And it was great to see so many people come into her aid through a GoFundMe. So sounds like she's doing pretty well, on the road to mending. And we look forward to having her down in Australia as well. Thirdly, Jared Warren, who you may know from Big Business, is playing bass with Unwound. And that is fantastic. He's filled the big shoes left by Vern. And we look forward to having him down here as well. It sounds like a fantastic lineup. And again, Google Unwound if you're in Australia, grab those tickets. And of course, they're playing in other parts of the world as well. So see this band while you can. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate all of you who are sharing these episodes on social media and Reddit forums and Facebook groups and tweeting them out and sharing on Instagram. That is hugely appreciated. And those of you leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, well, pucker up, pal, because here comes a big kiss for you. Mwah. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.